Right, time to take a deep breath, relax and start again. Having broken my very expensive puller, one of the arms broke off. Thought it was about time to stop and have a look and try and work out what was wrong. The main problem was, or the problem was, I simply couldn't get the puller. I couldn't get the jaws of the puller behind the pinion, no matter how hard I tried. And I looked and I thought, well, there's something blocking it. And I actually got the grinder, I shaved some off where I thought it needed to try and get it on, but no, nothing works. And in the end, I just managed to get two of the jaws on the pinion. And I thought if I could just pull it off a little bit, just a little bit, that'd be just enough for me to get all three jaws on. But of course, what happened, instead of it coming off the pinion, then the jaw simply snapped off. And I should try as I might, I can't get a new jaw. So I've stopped and I've had a proper look and I've realised what the problem is. So there's this washer. I'm going to try and point to it with this. There's this sort of washer behind, and it's got these flats on this triangle. It's like a triangular washer spacer, and that's where the jaws fit, just where that spacer is cut down. But what I didn't realise was, and I think you can see it quite clearly now, is that spacer is dished, and there's a lip there. You see a lip, and it's a bit shiny, and that is a lip that's on the spacer. And it was that very thin lip. You can see it's shiny because it's where I've been catching it with the extractor, with the jaws. So the lip, it simply wouldn't go past that lip. And so I've had to buy a new extractor. And you can clearly see that the jaws, the end of the jaws, are chamfered on this new puller, whereas they're square on my puller, my old puller, or virtually square. And that was the problem. They just simply, it was that little lip on the spacer there, that where it meets the crankcase. Has it gone kind of there? This lip here, that was stopping the puller getting on. The thing that I'm confused about, you see, is that I used this puller on my Commando 850 Mark III without a problem, and I couldn't work out. And I thought I knew what the problem was, but I should have stopped and had a proper look, because this puller has cost me 90 quid. 90 quid for that puller. And I tried to buy, a new a replacement leg for this broken puller, but of course, no. Everyone said, "Oh yeah, you used to sell them, but no, I don't sell them anymore." Oh, crikey. So that's 90 quid that's cost me for this new puller. But I have put it on by hand, and sure enough, with this chamfer on the legs, that chamfer misses that little sort of dished bit, this sort of rim around the edge, and it goes on. And that was what the problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to put we're going to now actually take this pinion off using the new puller. Now I know that pinion is on tight because I tried to get it off with the old extractor, sort of like half on, and it wouldn't shift at all. So I'm going to give it some heat with a blowtorch. Just get it nice and warm, nice and hot. Not too hot, but nice and hot, just so it expands a little bit, give it a bit better chance of coming off. Then we'll put the puller on and see if we can get this pinion off. So that's a little lesson there. There's a £90 lesson there, which, that hurts, that £90. I had an extractor. I spent £90. I've still got an extractor. Oh, right. Anyway, there we go. I'll heat that up, get everything rigged up, and then we'll take that pinion off. Okay, just using the blowtorch just to heat the pinion up. Help it. Hopefully, it'll expand very slightly, just to help us get it off, because I'm pretty sure it's on pretty tight. I've taken these off before on other bikes, and they've been really, really tight. Okay, I think we've got the puller on this time. I've locked the engine again by putting a bar through the conrods and protecting the crankcases. So now I'm going to tighten up the extractor, and hopefully this time the pinion's going to come off. I thought I felt it moving then, I hope I did. No, I'm not sure. Fucking Jesus. Right, at long last, I'm actually using the special tool to pull the pinion off the crankshaft. I even had to, I've had to adapt, adjust, change this new special tool because not even the new tool was working on this pinion. Dear, and I'll try and explain why when it's fully off, but there you go. Oh, wow, what a job that was. What a job that was. That must be one of the simplest jobs, you know. That must be one of the simplest jobs, and it was a complete and utter nightmare. I'll try and explain now why it was such a nightmare, even with the new tool. Okay, so the first thing you need to kind of realise is that behind the pinion on the crankshaft is this strange spacer that is like triangular. It's got three, where have they gone? It's got three flat sides on it. Okay, and it's round, and then there are three flat sides, and it's those three flat sides that the jaws of the puller can, they can get just behind that pinion by sitting on that flat, and then they can pull it off. Okay, now what I suddenly realised on the new puller, compare it with the old puller, let's have a look. I suddenly realised that the jaws on the old, is that right? The jaws on this new puller were actually curved, right? They curved the same shape as the sort of outside of the leg. And that meant that only because they were curved and they were sitting on that, whoops. Okay, at that point in the video, the camera slipped out of my hands. And unbeknownst to me, in getting it back, I turned the camera off. So the next bit of the explanation is missing. But in some ways, well, in a lot of ways, that's good, because I've now had to come back and sort of re-video it, the explanation of the problems, and so I can give a much fuller, clearer explanation with the use of amazing visual aids and props. Oh, you're going to be very impressed here. So this is the original tool, and it wouldn't go on. I couldn't get the tangs, the lip, to go behind the pinion, and I couldn't work out why. But then I realised that there is this dishwasher, and then this triangular spacer, then the pinion. And what was happening was my puller has these square edges on the outside, and what was happening was that I didn't realise, but they were hitting the dish, the edge of the dish, and there was just simply not enough room for them to go inside the dish and therefore go behind the pinion. So they were sitting on the edge of the dish. If you look at the newer puller, that has these chamfered edges, which enables that to go right inside the dish washer without a problem. What I'd actually done on mine was I started to grind down the as far as I could without losing strength, the bottom edges of the puller, because I thought that the only reason it couldn't go behind the pinion was because these were too thick, and so that's why I ground. And so I knew it wasn't going on, but I couldn't work out why, and I thought that these were too thick, so I ground down the top of these. But obviously, because the problem was it still didn't work, and it broke that off. So I attempted to grind that one down, but failed. So then came the new puller, which also failed, because I could get it, behind. I could get it on. I could get it behind the pinion, but it wasn't gripping the pinion properly. Okay, and I finally realised that the reason for that was different to my puller. Okay, so here's this strange triangular spacer that goes behind the pinion, and it's got these flats on it to enable the three legs of the extractor to sit on and get behind the pinion. But it was then, after I took ages trying to work it out, I finally worked out that what it was is that the legs of these pinions, the legs of this extractor are curved in the same radius as the sort of outside of the legs. So that meant that to use my amazing visual aid here, when I went to clamp this on, the puller kind of clamped on like that because it was, the legs are curved. And because of that, there simply wasn't enough of the puller behind the pinion, because only the two little ends of the curve were behind the pinion. And so it just kept slipping off. So what I did then was to grind flat, or flattish. You can see there's very little curve now on the inside of these legs. So I used my amazing visual aid, and so cutting that kind of almost flat, suddenly the legs would fit fully on behind the pinion, and hey presto, clamped it on and off it came. So there we got two problems. The first problem was this one, that wouldn't fit on past the dishwasher, and then the new one would fit on, but not enough of the actual legs of the puller behind the pinion, so I ground them flat so that they would go further behind the pinion, and off the pinion came as it should have done in the first place. I just say that one of the reasons I was confused is because I've used this puller before on a Commando with no problem whatsoever. And that's why I was confused. If I'd have not used this before, and then maybe I was thinking, well, it obviously fits in a different way. But in my defence, I'm kind of justifying myself a bit here, but I'd used this before and it worked fine. So I couldn't work out why it wouldn't work this time. But anyway, that's what it was. It's a combination of factors as ever, but we got there in the end. Hurrah!